yes. Oh, look. Pretty. Yes. Lighting. That'll work. That'll work. I know, yes, the brick backdrop. They'll be logging on any minute now. I know they will.
Alison, the basement of Alison's comedy.
Right. Instead, is it my living room or in my basement?
It's your basement.
I mean, oh, there. People are appearing now. Yes, they're logging on. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. I'll give them a minute. There you all are. Hi, yes, it's Alison Arngrim in my living room. But wait, what is with the freaky deaky backdrop? Yes, because this is my pretend brick wall that I have for tonight's show. It's the show. I kept telling you, Thursday, I would be in the other part of my living room. This is the other end of my living room. No, it's not a real brick wall. Look, you can see past it. It's not real. It's not real. Nothing is like real in this house, I swear. Wait, my volume up. Can you even hear me? There, I can hear me now. Yes. Okay, colors, yes, is good. Yeah, the green. And it looks rather nice, rather striking against the brick wall. So there you are. So, yes, I am Alison Arngrim, and I am in my 1800s, yes, wheelchair in front of my pretend brick wall, which I will be using tonight. So it's weird, like this afternoon, at 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock California time, just Pacific Daylight, not Pacific Standard Time, because we're actually daylight, it's PDT, Pacific Daylight Time, 5 p.m., and which means New York time, 8 o'clock on the East Coast. I will go live in front of this brick wall on a program called Stage It. I'll be doing Confessions of a Prairie Terror, and if you go to Stage It, you can sign up. There's tickets left, yeah, ticky, and the $10 and the thing. Now, I bring this up because they have a tipping thing where people watching the show can say, hi, I wish to give her more money. But we have prizes. Some of the people viewing will tip. And some of those tippers will win, and the biggest tipper will win. Like a Skype Zoom call, like one-on-one video, like to you, hi, like in your house. I will do a Skype Zoom call with you if you're the winner. In fact, Randy and Bill, I'm actually going to be Skyping, Zooming, something, Facebooking with the two of them like tomorrow. Because they won. They won last time. So you will win something. And then I have bonnets, and there's prizes, and there's tin cups and books. There's prizes. You can win things. So totally tune in tonight. Go to stageit.com for Confessions of a Prairie Terror. And it'll be, I might have this wheelchair and I'll have this brick wall, and it'll be funny. And I looked at some of the questions people were posting on Twitter and Facebook and whatnot, and I will try to answer some of them. Barnaby in England is watching. All right. Now, as I said, we're not done. People are like, is it almost over? No, it's not almost over. Look at this. There's several chapters here, and then there's more books. There's more books. There's more books that haven't even gotten to these happy golden years. More. Very quickly. Today is June 25th. It's Thursday. It's the day of my show. June 25th is National Strawberry Parfait Day. It is National Catfish Day. I like catfish. You like catfish? I don't necessarily get fried, but I do like catfish. National Bomb Pop Day. You remember Bomb Pops from the ice cream truck? I love Bomb Pops. National Handshake Day. Nobody's doing that anymore because no one can touch each other. But if I was going to shake hands, I would shake it with you. Today is also, this is hysterical. I did not know about this. National Leon Day. And my husband Bob just looked it up because I was like, what? He said, do you know what National Leon is? I said, not a clue. Leon Day. He said, spell it backwards. N-O-E, Noel. Noel. It's Noel. Right, because it's June, the 6th month. It's the 25th. So we're right in the middle of the year. It's the 25th. It's 6 months to Christmas. So it's Leon. It's Christmas backwards. So today we're halfway to Christmas! I love Christmas. So there you go. Halfway to Christmas. It's happening. So we are now into chapter 23 of Little Town of the Prairie. I think we're past all the really embarrassing, sad, racist things. I think everything's okay now. School time begins again, as it should. Remember, Laura was having trouble. She wasn't studying. She was going to all these weird parties and minstrel shows and embarrassing entertainments and spelling bees, but she wasn't studying, and she actually went down in her grades, which is kind of a disaster for her because she wants to be a teacher. So she's going to straighten that out. School time begins again. Afterward, it seemed to Laura that she did nothing but study that whole summer long. Good. Of course, this was not true. She brought water from the well in the mornings. She milked and moved the picket pins and taught the new calf to drink. She worked in the garden and in the house, and in haying time she trod down the grass loads of hay that Pa drove away to town. But the long, hot, sticky hours with school books and slate seemed to overshadow all else. She did not go to town even on 4th of July. Carrie went with Pa and Ma, but Laura stayed at home to take care of Grace and study the Constitution. You know, I think that's actually a good way to celebrate the 4th of July. Stay home and study the Constitution. It's orange juice today. Very healthy. I'm not going out on the 4th of July. Well, first of all the things I would go to, Burbank. Burbank Starlight Bowl had the nicest fireworks show. They had a really good thing. Of course, Hollywood Bowl, of course, very crowded, usually sells out. But they're not happening. None of them are happening. Big fan of Burbank Starlight Bowl when they reopen. Great place. So I think I'm going to stay home. That's what I'm going to do, 4th of July. What do you think? I stay home and study the Constitution. So when I run out of books, do you know how many books this woman wrote? So I'm going to read all her stuff. I can read Rosa's stuff. I can read more Laura's stuff. I can read Bill Anderson's stuff. We do a video. I read the Constitution. Gettysburg Address. I can do it. All right, so she's staying home studying the Constitution on the 4th of July. Letters came often from Mary, and every week a long letter went to her in return. Even Grace was able to write little letters as Ma taught her, and these were always sent to Mary with the others. Aww. The hens were laying now. Yay! Ma saved the best eggs for setting, and 24 chicks hatched. That's a lot of chickens. The smaller pullet eggs Ma used in cooking, and for one Sunday dinner, with the first green peas and new potatoes, they ate fried chicken. The other cockerels Ma let grow up. They would be larger to eat later on. The gophers came again. Oh, those gophers. But they have a cat now. The gophers came again, and Kitty grew fat in the cornfield. She caught more gophers than she could eat, and at all hours of the day, she could be heard meow-cowling. That's what it says, meowling proudly as she brought a fresh killed one to lay at Ma's feet or Laura's or Carrie's or Grace's. She wanted to share her good food, and her puzzled look showed plainly she could not understand why the whole family did not eat gophers. If anyone has a cat, have they done that? Have they done that thing of, here, I killed it for you, and brought you like rats and mice and lizards, and gopher went, it's like, yeah, birds and things. They're so happy. They're so proud. They're treating you like a kitten, like family. They have brought you nourishment. So, I mean, what you're supposed to do when you're not gagging before you get the paper towels and throw it away is you have to say, oh, good cat, good hunter, yes, thank you, yes, it's beautiful, it's lovely, and you thank them, and then you, like, go throw up. It's like, ew. Bringing in the gophers. The blackbirds came again. Now, that was quite a problem. Blackbirds actually ate, like almost all their crops. It was a major problem. Though they were not so many this year, and Kitty caught some of them, still they did damage enough. And again, the mellow fall weather came, and Laura and Carrie walked to school. There were more people in town now, and in all the country around. The school was so crowded that all the seats were filled, and in some of the front seats, 3 of the smaller pupils sat. There was a new teacher, Mr. Owen, a son of the Mr. Owen whose bay horse had almost won the 4th of July race. Laura liked and respected him very much. He was not very old, but he was serious and industrious and enterprising. And he was not Liza Jane. From the first day, he ruled with a firm hand. Every pupil was obedient and respectful. Every lesson was thoroughly learned. On the 3rd day of school, Mr. Owen whipped Willie Oleson. Oh, Willie's back! Wait, we haven't heard from Willie in ages. Nellie suddenly appeared, even though they wouldn't be. And now Willie has appeared. How nice. It hasn't changed, which is great. For some time, Laura did not quite know what she thought about that whipping. Willie was bright enough, but he had never learned his lessons. When he was called upon to recite, he let his mouth fall open, and all the sense went out of his eyes. He looked less than half-witted. He hardly looked human. It made anyone turn sick to see him. Okay, Jonathan Gilbert, who played Willie, actually did stuff like that. That's completely him. Not only in character, where it's like, he did that. Jonathan Gilbert, so smart, very smart, very smart. Melissa's brother. And he was smart as a whip, that kid. But he would fake out the teacher. And I don't mean in like the TV school. I mean our real school where they had the set teacher and we were doing our study hall thing with our books from school to like try to keep up. They would sit there. He wouldn't do his work. And the teacher would ask him things and he'd go, I don't know. And then he'd read the wrong word and he'd be like, Jonathan. I was finally like, Jonathan, what are you doing? I know you are faking. So yeah, no, he's exactly like Willie. Willie went in there, let his mouth fall open and all the sense went out of his eyes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. He had begun doing this to tease Miss Wilder. He seemed unable to collect his scattered mind enough to understand anything she said to him. At recess, he would do this again to amuse the other boys. Now, I asked Jonathan, I said, what the heck are you doing? You got my comments there. I said, I know you know that word. I know you can read. And he said, shh, shh. I said, what? He said, have you seen how much homework Melissa gets? I was like, what? He goes, well, she let them find out she was smart. And now they give her all the really hard books to read, and they put her in the higher classes, in the hard math class, and they gave her more homework. He says, I'm not letting anybody find out. I'm going to play dumb. I'm not letting them bump me up a grade and give me more homework. Which is really interesting. Now, what his plans were after school with that method, I don't really know. But he was determined to not let anyone know he was smart. Like, he succeeded. Nobody knew, but I knew. I knew. Faking. And here is Willie doing it. When Mr. Cluett taught, he thought that Willie was a half-wit and required nothing of him. See, it worked for him. The habit had grown on Willie until now, at any time, he could be seen mooning about with his mouth dropped open and his eyes empty. Laura really thought that Willie's mind completely left him at these times. It's terrible. See, it's like, don't make that face. It'll stay that way. Don't fake being stupid at school, because it'll stay. It'll get stuck. The first time that Willie goggled at Mr. Owen was when his name was asked for the school record. Mr. Owen was startled, and Nellie spoke up. He's my brother, Willie Oleson, and he can't answer questions. They confuse him. Several times that day and the next, Laura saw Mr. Owen glance sharply at Willie. Willie was always drooling and staring blankly. When he was called upon to recite, Laura could not bear to see his idiot face. On the third day, Mr. Owen quietly said, Come with me, Willie. He had his pointer in his hand. With the other hand, firm on Willie's shoulder, he took Willie into the entry and shut the door. He did not say anything. From their seats nearest the door, Ida and Laura heard the swish and thud of the pointer. Everyone heard Willie's howls. Mr. Owen came quietly in with Willie. Stop blubbering, he said. Go to your seat and study. I expect you to know and recite your lesson. Okay, he knew he was faking, so yikes. Willie stopped blubbering and went to his seat. After that one look from Mr. Owen cleared some of the idiot look from Willie's face. He seemed to be trying to think and to act like other boys. Laura often wondered whether he could pull his mind together after he had let it go to pieces so. But at least Willie was trying. He was afraid not to try. So, it says Willie faked being dumb in class so much that he actually damaged his brain to the point he almost couldn't stop faking. So don't do that. That's like, if you make that face, it'll stay that way. So that's what happened. That's happened. Willie kept going, oh, and then he couldn't think when he wanted to. Laura and Ida, Mary Power and Minnie, and Nellie Oleson had kept their old seats. They were all tan brown from the summer sun, except Nellie, who was paler and more ladylike than ever. Her clothes were so beautiful, though her mother did make them over from cast-offs, that Laura grew dissatisfied with her brown school dress and her blue cashmere for best. She did not complain, of course, but she wanted to. She has more money, and she has more clothes than Nellie now. It's like, no, complain. What? Hoop skirts. Hoops had finally come in. This was a big thing on the show. We kept saying bustles. Do we get bustles? And they went, no, not yet. Hoops had finally come in, and Ma bought a set for Laura. She let down the hem of the brown dress and made it over so cleverly that it could be worn over hoops perfectly well, and the full blue cashmere needed no changing. Still, Laura felt that all the other girls were better dressed. How the heck did they go to school in the hoop skirts? Like, where would you sit? It just doesn't sound right. Mary Power had a new school dress. Minnie Johnson had a new coat and new shoes. Ida's clothes came out of a missionary barrel, but Ida was so sweet and merry that she looked perfectly dear in anything. When Laura dressed for school, it seemed to her that the more she fussed with her appearance, the more dissatisfying it was. Oh, she's so a teenager. Remember, she would think she's looking in the mirror going, oh, I'm fat and I look horrible. It's like, oh, you're so 15. So, yeah, she's being very 15. I can't wear this. Your corset is too loose, Ma tried to help her one morning. Pull the strings tighter and your figure will be neater. And I can't think that a lunatic fringe is the most becoming way to do your hair. It makes any girl's ears appear larger to comb their hair up back of them and then have that mat of bangs above the forehead. Make your ears look big. Ma was anxiously helpful, but some sudden thought made her laugh softly to herself. What is it, Ma? Tell us, Laura and Carrie begged. I was only thinking of that time your Aunt Eliza and I combed our hair up off of our ears and went to school that way. The teacher called us up front and shamed us before the whole school for being so unladylike and bold as to let our ears be seen. Ma laughed softly again. Is that the reason you always wear those soft wings of hair down over your ears? Laura cried. Ma looked a little surprised. Yes, I suppose it is, she answered, still smiling. On the way to school, Laura said, Carrie, do you know, I've never once seen Ma's ears. They're probably pretty ears, too, said Carrie. You look like her. Your ears are little and pretty. Well, Laura began, and she stopped and spun round and round, for the strong wind blowing against her always made the wires of her hoop skirt creep softly upward under her skirts until they bunched around her knees. Bad. Then she must whirl around and around till the wires shook loose and spiraled down to the bottom of her skirts where they should be. I do not want to wear clothes that require that much effort. That you, every time you go out, you go, wait, I gotta fix my dress. You gotta spin around to make all the metal in your dress hang properly. Terrible. That sounds much too complicated. I mean, I'll dress up tonight, but, you know, not in a hoop skirt. I like pants. I mean jeans. I like jeans. I wear jeans. I'll dress up occasionally, but, like, I'm not going to have to wear a dress where I got to jump up and down and spin around circles to get my dress to hang. That's like murder. As she and Carrie hurried on, she began again. I think it was silly, the way they dressed when Ma was a girl, don't you? Drat this wind, she exclaimed as the hoops began creeping upward again. Quietly, Carrie stood by while Laura whirled. I'm glad I'm not old enough to have to wear hoops, she said. They'd make me dizzy. They are rather a nuisance, Laura admitted, but they are stylish, and when you're my age, you'll want to be in style. Now, this is like a joke for the grown-ups, because remember, these books came out in the 30s, and here's Laura in the now, I guess, 1880s, almost late 1870s, saying, oh, I can't believe how silly they made my mother dressed back in her day, and she's wearing 1800s clothes and hoop skirts. So people in the 1930s, women were already, Katharine Hepburn, women were already wearing slacks. And of course, the dresses were far more comfortable and simpler than hoop skirts. So all the women in the 1930s who were wearing normal dresses or even pants if they worked are going, boo! She thinks it's funny the way her mother dressed, because they think she's bonkers sweat hips. So that was a fashion joke for people in the 30s. Ha. Living in town was so exciting that fall that Pa said there was no need of literaries. Well, that's a relief, considering where they were going. There was church every Sunday, prayer meeting every Wednesday night, the Ladies' Aid planned 2 sociables, and there was talk of a Christmas tree. Laura hoped there would be one, for Grace had never seen a Christmas tree. In November, there was to be a week of revival meetings at the church, and Mr. Owen, with the school board's approval, was planning a social exhibition. I don't know what that is. School would go on without interruption until the school exhibition just before Christmas. So the big boys did not wait until winter, but came to school in November. More smaller pupils had to be crowded, 3 in a seat, to make room for them. This school needs a larger building, Mr. Owen said to Laura and Ida one day at recess. I'm hoping the town can afford to build one next summer. There really is a need for a graded school even. Shocking. I am counting a great deal upon the showing we made at the school exhibition to acquaint the people with the school and its needs. Wow. Now, you remember how crowded we were on the show in school, but they didn't build it. In fact, we didn't even bother to build like a church and a school. We were in Walnut Grove for like 9 years. They could have built a separate school and a church, and they did not. And here, they have a separate school and church, and they're still saying they need a bigger school. And they have so many kids. We had a ton of kids on the show, but we just kept, the little school. He's even saying it's past the time for the one-room schoolhouse with all the grades. He's saying that it is now time for a graded schoolhouse, for elementary school and high school, for different levels. Multiple teachers. Modern times. Shocking. So they're going to have this school exhibition and kind of raise money. Shocking. After that, he told Laura and Ida that their part in the exhibition would be to recite the whole of American history from memory. Can you imagine doing that? Now, that is quite a lot. That's a lot. And, of course, it's only the 1800s. Can you imagine now, in 2020, just go from 1776 or so, or maybe earlier, the 1600s, when people, first started building towns, just do all of American history from memory. That'd be a long, long day, I'm telling you. Okay. Oh, do you think we can do it, Laura? Ida gasped when he left them. Oh, yes, Laura answered. You know we like history. Recite the whole of American history from memory. I'm glad you've got the longer part anyway, said Ida. I've only got to remember from John Quincy Adams to Rutherford B. Hayes. But you've got all that about the discoveries in the map and the battles and the Western Reserve and the Constitution. My, I don't know how you ever can. It's longer, but we've studied it more and reviewed it oftener, said Laura. She was glad to have that part. She thought it more interesting. Well, the first part with the Constitution, yeah, I guess. The other girls were talking eagerly about the revival meetings. Everyone in town and from all the nearby country would go to them. Laura did not know why, for she had never been to a revival meeting. But when she said that she should stay at home and study, Nellie exclaimed in horror, Why? People who don't go to revival meetings are atheists. Ah! Nellie. People who don't go to revival meetings, atheists. Oh yeah, like Laura Ingalls an atheist. Yeah, nice try. The others did not say a word in Laura's defense, and Ida's brown eyes pleaded anxiously when she said, You are coming, aren't you, Laura? Whoa, they're really into the revival. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. I think socially it was a big deal. So. Can you imagine someone having to recite from memory in school about, Rutherford B. Hayes? Now? What? No. The revival meetings would last a whole week. Oh, a whole week. And besides the daily lessons, there was the school exhibition to prepare for. Monday night, Laura hurried home from school to study till supper time. She thought about history while she washed the dishes, and then snatched a little time with her books while Pa and Ma were dressing. "Hurry, Laura, we'll be late. It's church time now," said Ma. Standing before the glass, Laura hurriedly set her darling brown velvet hat evenly on her bangs and fluffed them out. Ma waited by the door with Carrie and Grace. Pa shut the stove's draft and turned down the lamp wick. "Are you all ready?" he asked, and then he blew out the lamp. By his lantern light they all went out, and he locked the door. Not a window on Main Street was lighted. Behind Fuller's Hardware, the last lanterns were bobbing across the vacant lots toward the brightly lighted church, and wagons and buggies and blanketed horses stood thick in the shadows around it. They had a big turnout. The church was crowded and hot from the dazzling lamps and coal heater. Graybeards sat close around, that's what it says. He's picking on old people now. Graybeards sat close around the pulpit. Families were in the middle seats, and young men and boys filled the back seats. Laura saw everyone she knew, and many strangers, as Pa led the way up the aisle, looking for a vacant place. He stopped at next to the front seat, and Ma, with Grace, then Carrie and Laura, edged past knees and sat down. It's that Reverend Brown who's all sort of fire and brimstone dude. That's what they're going to do. Reverend Brown rose from his chair behind the pulpit and gave out a hymn. Number 154. Mrs. Brown played the organ, and everyone stood up and sang. And do I know this one? No, we didn't do it on the show. This one. There were 99 that safely lay in the shelter of the fold, but one was out on the hills away, far off from the gates of gold. Away on the mountains wild and bare, away from the tender shepherd's care. If a revival meeting could be nothing but singing, Laura would have loved it. Though she felt that she should be studying and not wasting time in enjoyment, her voice rose clear and true as Pa's as they sang, "Rejoice, for the Lord brings back his own." Then the long prayer began. Laura bent her head and closed her eyes while Reverend Brown's harsh voice sing-songed on and on. It was a great relief to stand up at last and sing again. There was a hymn with a dancing swing and a throbbing beat. Oh gosh, that'd probably be banned in some churches now, right? Aren't the churches like, no, it's too much of a beat. You can't have that. It's like pop music. You can't be playing that. But there's Laura, the rockin' beat. It's like the rock mass. Sowing the seed by the daylight fair, sowing the seed by the noonday glare, sowing the seed by the fading light, sowing the seed in the solemn night. Oh, what shall the harvest be? Oh, what shall the harvest be? It's kind of like a kicky version of Bringing in the Chiefs. Reverend Brown's preaching went on with the throbbing and swinging. His voice rose and fell, thundered and quivered. His bushy white eyebrows raised and lowered. His fist thumped the pulpit. Repent ye, while yet there is time to be saved from damnation, he roared. Old school. Chills ran up Laura's spine and over her scalp. She seemed to feel something rising from all those people, something dark and frightening that grew and grew under that thrashing voice. The words no longer made sense. They were not sentences. They were only dreadful words. For one horrible instant, Laura imagined that Reverend Brown was the devil. His eyes had fires in them. Come forward and be saved. Come to salvation. Repent, ye sinners. Stand up and sing. Oh, lost lambs, flee from the wrath. Pull for the shore. He's really going to town. His hands lifted them all to their feet, and his loud voice sang, "Pull for the shore, sailor, pull for the shore." Come, his voice roared through the storm of singing, and someone, a young man, came stumbling up the aisle. Heed not the stormy winds that loudly they roar. Bless you, my sinning brother. Down on your knees, and God bless you. Are there any more? Reverend Brown was shouting, and his voice roared again into the song, "Pull for the shore." It's craziness. Laura is not into this. Laura is like going, I don't know, this is starting to sound like maybe it's not a good idea. She's kind of seeing the negative influence of this kind of harsh demeanor here. So the first words of that hymn had made Laura want to laugh. She remembered the tall, thin man and the pudgy little one so solemnly singing it, and all the storekeepers popping from the torn screen doors. The two town drunks, that's where she last heard Pull from the Shore, was the two drunk dudes coming out of the saloon on Main Street and going, "Pull for the shore, sailor." And now they're doing it in church, and she's getting the giggles. Oh, dearie me. Now she felt that all the noise and excitement was not touching her. She looked at Pa and Ma. They were quietly standing and quietly singing, while the dark, wild thing that she felt was roaring all around them like a blizzard. Another young man and then an older woman went forward and knelt. Then church was over, yet somehow not over. People were pressing forward to crowd around those three and wrestle for their souls. In a low voice, Pa said to Ma, "Come, Ma, let's go." He carried Grace down the aisle toward the door. Ma followed with Carrie, and behind her Laura followed close. In the back seats, all the young men and boys stood watching the people passing by. Laura's dread of strangers came over her, and the open door ahead seemed a refuge from their eyes. She did not notice a touch on her coat sleeve until she heard a voice saying, "May I see you home?" It was Almanzo Wilder. Dun, 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 dun. Laura was so surprised she could not say a word. She could not even nod or shake her head. She could not think. His hand stayed on her arm, and he walked beside her through the door. He protected her from being jostled in the crowded entry. Pa had just lighted his lantern. He lowered the chimney and looked up just as Ma turned back and asked, "Where's Laura?" They both saw Laura with Almanzo Wilder beside her, and Ma stood petrified. "Come on, Caroline," said Pa. Ma followed him, and after one wide-eyed stare, carried in two. She's 15. So, on the one hand, they're like, well, thank heavens, there's a guy protecting the crowd. On the other hand, she's 15. And Almanzo is 25. And just asked their 15er, "Can I walk you home?" And they're like, but Pa's kind of going, maybe. Scary. The ground was white with snow, and it was cold, but there was no wind, and stars shone brightly in the sky. Laura could not think of a word to say. She wished that Mr. Wilder would say something. A faint scent of cigar smoke came from his thick cloth overcoat. He smoked. It was pleasant, but not as homelike as the scent of Pa's pipe. It was a more dashing scent. It made her think of Cap and this young man daring that dangerous trip to bring back the wheat. All this time she was trying to think of something to say. Now it's like, oh, dashing Cap Garland Almanzo who saved us, and ooh, he kind of smells like cigars. We all see where this is going. Do we see where this is going? We totally see. Are my comments not coming in? You're on there. Okay. To her complete surprise, she heard her own voice say, "Anyway, there's no blizzard." "No, this is a nice winter. Not much like the hard winter," said he. Again, there was silence except for the crunch of their feet on the snow-covered path. On Main Street, dark groups hurried homeward with lanterns that cast big shadows. Pa's lantern went straight across the street. Pa and Ma and Carrie and Grace were in and were at home. Laura and Almanzo stood outside the closed door. He's walking her home. They live like across the street. "Well, good night," he said, as he made a backward step and raised his cap. I'll see you tomorrow night." "Good night," Laura answered, as she quickly opened the door. Pa was holding the lantern up while Ma lighted the lamp, and he was saying, "Trust him anywhere, and he's only walking her home from church." "But she's only 15, said Ma. And then the door was shut. So Pa was arguing. There you go. Trust him anywhere, and it's only one. He's like, come on, it's Almanzo. It's Almanzo. It's fine, and it's only. And Ma said, but she's only 15. Then the door was shut and locked, probably. Laura was inside the warm room. The lamp was lighted, and everything was right. "Well, what did you think of the revival meeting?" Paul asked. And Laura answered, "It isn't much like the Reverend Alden's quiet sermons. I I like his better. So do I, said Pa. Then Ma said it was past bedtime. Now, we have a picture of Almanzo seeing Miss Laura home. There you go. There they are, see. And he's he didn't touch her. He's just off in his cap there. But she is like, she's 15. He's like a grown man person. And then Ma said it was past bedtime. Several times next day, Laura wondered what young Mr. Wilder had meant by saying that he would see her that night. She did not know why he had walked home with her. It was an odd thing for him to do, for he was a grown-up. He was grown up. He had been a homesteader for a few years, so he must be at least 23 years old, and he was Pa's friend more than hers. Well, she's right. And she's so innocent at 15. She literally is like, I don't even know why. Why did he want to walk me home? Why does he want to talk to me? Why does Pa's friend, who's like 25, want to talk to me? She's like, okay, wow, she didn't even know. Yikes. That night in church, she did not mind the sermon at all. She only wished she need not be there when as many people all together grew so excited. She was glad when Pa said again, let's go. Almanzo Wilder stood in the line of young men near the door, and Laura was embarrassed. She saw now that several young men were taking young ladies home. She felt her cheeks flushing, and she did not know where to look. Again he replied, May I see you home? And this time she answered politely, yes. She had thought what she would have said last night, so now she spoke about Minnesota. A hot date topic. Minnesota. She had come from Plum Creek, and he had come from Spring Valley. But before that, he'd lived in New York State, near Malone. Yay! Malone! Almanzo's place in Malone. There's a whole, Almanzo Wilder thing up there. Gorgeous up there, by the way. Laura thought she kept the conversation going quite well until they reached the door where she could say good night. Every night that week, he saw her home from the revival meeting. She still could not understand why. But the week soon ended, so that again she could spend the evenings in study, and she forgot to wonder about Almanzo in her dread of the school exhibition. Oh, well, that's enough. I gotta get ready for my show. You got one chapter, it was a long one. So Almanzo clearly has decided he likes Laura, because you just don't ask a girl back from church. Now, mind you, like I said, church is here, family lives here, so it's not like he was walking for miles down a dark alley. It was like a block. But the fact that he kept asking her to walk back, he's made up his mind. That is, he has started to court her. And he's doing the polite thing because she's freaking 15, so he's just walking her home from church. And Pa is okay with it. Ma is already having a fit. But so far, it is acceptable to walk a 15-year-old home from church, as long as you don't go any further than that. But yikes, it's begun, and Laura is completely why is the man walking me home from school? Not a clue, not a clue. I really think Mom and Pa need to set her down and have a little chat about the birds and the bees and the facts of life, because this would be very alarming when things progress here, which they will. So tomorrow, I'm not sure what time. We might go a little late. Tomorrow we will read of this infamous school exhibition that they're also hopped up, expired, excited about. Look at that. It's a longie, too. So you're going to get that. And then there's one more chapter. And then it's another book. It's another whole book. It's huge. And then there's more. Because tomorrow I have to do things. I have to get on the phone with people and stuff. So 1:30 maybe will be at 2. I don't know. I'll keep you posted. But tomorrow we will do the school exhibition. And tonight, on stage yet. And remember, there's prizes. So log on, if you tip, you can win stuff. Hey, what the heck? So do that and wash your little hands and wear little masks and be very careful, because germs, yes, still there, it's still happening. Yes, scary. But take care of yourselves and have a little juice and crackers. It's getting mighty warm. It's starting to get mighty warm in summer. So stay cool and stay healthy, and I will see you